They are important, I think, in providing some constraints on the Trump administration, which currently has almost no constraints in terms of what the president can do. The Supreme Court is not reining in presidential power, quite the opposite. So the congressional elections are going to be important. If the Democrats win the House, which they are likely to do, that at least provides one half of a branch of government that can play a role, hold hearings. They have the budget, the power of the purse. They will be able to provide some constraints, possibly the Senate. The Senate is very much likely to remain in Republican hands, and that's important for their ability to remain the body that considers Supreme Court appointments, that does treaties. So the Senate would be great for balance of power, checks and balances, but it may not happen. But if the House happens, that is the first step, because in the end, voters are the ultimate constraint. And if we want to live in governments that are organized around accountability of power, we call them republics or liberal democracies, these institutions have to function. And a majority of the American people are very worried and upset by the excesses of this administration. And so the voters have to register that in elections, which in turn creates institutional bulwark against those excesses. I think that the practical victims of what we see are everywhere: small states, a world where power is everything, where no international law exists, states that don't have power, the powerless, the weak are the ones who are going to be most endangered in this world. Think of the people of Greenland. More generally, I think Europe is going to have to rethink its role in the world. Alas, I think that what Trump is doing in attacking the deep foundations of the transatlantic alliance, he is, in some sense, forcing countries that have, for almost 80 years, built their expectations about economics and politics and security around a deep binding relationship with the United States. The United States would advance its interests as a leader, a hegemonic leader in a world of democracies, where Europe would play its role and would be a partner in this, as well as Japan and partners in East Asia, the so-called trilateral world. Countries and generations have built their strategic expectations about the presence of this America playing this pivotal role, this kind of centerpiece role in this global order. It is now under Trump saying, we're not going to play that role anymore. And everybody is having to decide, what do we do now? Do we wait him out? Do we appease him? Do we hope that he'll leave office with enough of the old order remaining that we can rebuild our lives as a transatlantic world? Or are we going to have to jump to a new system? Is Europe, more specifically, going to have to live and prepare to live in a world where it can no longer count on the United States? And I think that is the world we're headed to. The American founders, Madison and Hamilton and Jefferson and others, knew that this problem was a problem for republics, that you would get populist authoritarians who would use power to abuse their office. And they were preparing for that problem with the so-called checks and balances, multiple levels, vertically, different parts of government, courts and the legislature, and then federally, different vertically across the system. Those checks and balances are fairly weak right now. The Supreme Court has put itself in Trump's pocket, and both houses of Congress are run by a party that's dictated really by the president. Until we get out from underneath that, checks and balances are not going to work as well as we hope. That's why we have expectation that the midterm election will at least start to turn the tide. But this is really a test, the most severe test for the American system in its 250-year history. This is the moment when we have to see whether our institutions will hold. And we are really have more questions than answers about whether that will happen. Well, Greenland is definitely difficult to predict the outcome of, because we have a president who doesn't seem to want to take yes for an answer. So he has said the United States wants control of Greenland because of national security reasons. China and Russia threaten the polar region in a way which may be true. The people of Greenland and Denmark and Europe and NATO allies are saying, yes, you can use Greenland for whatever security purposes that you want, and we will work with you, and we will make sure our new efforts succeed. Trump is saying is, well, I actually want to own it. And that is where international law, the Charter of the United Nations, and NATO itself get in the way. So he clearly does not simply care about security and therefore wants to have a greater American presence in Greenland. He wants to own it like a real estate baron. He wants his name on it. He wants the color of the island change from Denmark, the kingdom, to the United States. So it's a vanity project in the end. It's about his ego. And so how do we live in a world where the most powerful person gets to stir the pot of world politics and put everybody else in crisis simply to appease his own ego? I don't think we've ever been in that kind of situation before, and therefore we don't quite know what to do about it. I think Europe has to put its foot down and say, this is a red line, that we don't do this. You don't extort like a gangster your closest allies, who you need in the long run for everything you want to do in world politics. Security, economics, technology, everything. So Europe would be a good friend of America by standing firm for the rule of law, international law, sovereign rights, and say we want to still be your friend. This alliance means everything to us, but we can't be disrespected like this, because that's not in the long run healthy for any of us. And so I think we need a Europe, and this has happened before. I think the Iraq War and other moments where Europe's role is partly to talk America down from doing crazy things.